You are now listening to the Purple Fox Podcast.
I mean, it's been speculative since its inception. I mean, the network had to grow to gain the strength. Its strength comes from its growth, or how big it is, like how many miners and how decentralized and how global. And it's been like the goal has always been in the future. The current is sort of trying to achieve that future that comes from the technology. And honestly, like they keep finding stuff and keep finding stuff. I mean, Ethereum didn't come out right away. Ethereum was something that happened like 4 years later or whatever. Someone discovered, like, what if I attach code to a token and suddenly you can program the blockchain and use each other's computers and stuff. And the more you stay in it, the more like innovations come out and more uses.
What's going on, everybody? This is the Purple Fox Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Eze. Today, in the foxhole, we have three guests: DeRuvo, Elvis Chirinos.
Yeah.
All right, right on. And Sebastian Betancourt. Boom. All right. DeRuvo is a software developer, nature enjoyer, and an optimist. He wants more walkable places, more lateral thinking, and loves how crypto allows us to experiment with governance and property systems. Elvis Chirinos is a freelance filmmaker with an enthusiasm for researching anything that would leave a better world for tomorrow. Also, he's kind of funny. And and Sebastian Betancourt is a preschool teacher by work, artist by heart, activist by soul, crypto nerd by brain, gym rat by body, and a nature hugger by spirit. He wants us all to win and have happy lives. That's a great goal. Welcome to the Foxhole, gentlemen.
Hey.
Right on.
So I just wanted to start us off with a quick question, and then we can kind of snowball from there. So, and you can each take your turn to give your takes on this. What do you feel is the role of cryptocurrency now and in the future?
I mean, it's been speculative since its inception. I mean, the network had to grow to gain the strength. Its strength comes from its growth, or how big it is, like how many miners and how decentralized and how global. And it's been like the goal has always been in the future. The current is sort of trying to achieve that future that comes from the technology. And honestly, like they keep finding stuff and keep finding stuff. I mean, Ethereum didn't come out right away. Ethereum was something that happened like 4 years later or whatever. Someone discovered, like, what if I attach code to a token and suddenly you can program the blockchain and use each other's computers and stuff. And the more you stay in it, the more like innovations come out and more uses. I think a lot of people tend to write it off as like magic pretend money and stuff like that, but like the more the more people realize how controlled like currency is these days, and how it's like kind of aligned our thoughts on how things should run, the more people kind of like let those limits down. They realize, like, wait a minute, now we can do this and now we can do that. Now we can borrow each other's computational power from all over the world. One of the projects that I remember being really interested in, because I'm a filmmaker, was like movies like Pixar, like Toy Story and those Pixar movies.
Right.
They require something called a render farm. And a render farm is like a building full of air conditioners and servers, and all they're doing all day is rendering scenes that they kind of drew out. It takes a long time, and it takes a ton of processing power and a ton of electricity, and it's very inaccessible to somebody like me. But with this Ethereum project, I don't even know if it's still going. I think it's called Golem. But their whole deal was just like, okay, now we can access all the computers on the network, borrow a little bit of their computational power, and render huge movies like that, huge multi-million-dollar movies, and like students can do them now. And just stuff like that is like always blows my mind.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, I love that you touched on that, because a lot of people don't understand what rendering really is. Like, and I think that's it. It reminds me of the Matrix, right? And Keanu Reeves, and what he did with a lot of his paycheck because Keanu Reeves understood what visual effects takes to make a film like The Matrix come about, which was
very extensive.
The Matrix was like an instant mind-blowing experience because of all of the effects, right? And he gave
Cult classic.
so many of those people a piece of his fortune that he made off that movie, because he understood that all of those people are in the background working at these rendering farms, making this film what it was. It's not just the acting and the filmmaking specifically, because I'm also in the filmmaking industry, both in front and behind the camera. And so, I mean, I thought that was like a mind-blowing situation with him, because and it's beautiful to see, right? Because there is so much computing power that's going into the creation of these films. So that's why I think it's very important that we talk about things like that, Elvis, too, because a lot of people don't understand the all-encompassing teamwork that it takes to bring about a film, especially nowadays that a lot of it is CGI. And most films have CGI in them, even when you don't really think they do. And to answer your question, I mean, to put it simply for me, your question was, what does crypto mean right now for society? You know, for me, with what I have, the rabbit holes that I have gone down, it's like financial independence for the individual in society. I think it brings about the idea to fruition of something physical. And I know we're talking about digital currency, but it's like a physical representation of what it might mean for us people, individuals, you, Kev, Elvis, Aaron, for you to have a grasp away from the banking systems and institutions that have your money in their systems. And while your money is stored in their system, they're not only charging a monthly or yearly fee, but also using your money that is digitized anyway. And anybody can fight with me in this. Like, your money has been digitized for years with your debit card. Like, if you have a few mil in the bank, you can't just go to the bank and be like, yeah, I'm trying to get my 3 million in cash right now.
Right. I mean, even the concept of credit, you know, like it's all numbers on, you know, some database, you know.
It's all numbers, man. So crypto is not, for me, it's not that different, because it is all digitized anyway. And so that is one specific answer I could give you, that it's a step closer for us as a society, as a people, to reach financial independence, to control of your own fiat, of your own hard-earned money. You know where it is. You have control of it at any given point in your wallet, right? It's secure as far as you're willing to secure your crypto, your fiat that is in that coin or token or whatever it is that you have it in. And what was the other question? Like, what's it going to mean for the future?
Well, yeah, that's. I mean, I feel like you pretty much touched on the basics of the question I asked. Yeah,
I think the other thing, just real quick, I think it's important. Like, so if we think about the internet and the adoption rate of the internet, when that was coming about, Y2K and all that, I mean, I think it was in the upper 60th percentile of adoption rate year to year. Now, crypto, since its birth, has been adopted. Right now, there's about 150 million crypto users. About 140 million have Bitcoin.
Right, that's growing
in their holdings. But the year-to-year rate of adoption has almost doubled that of the internet year to year. And no technology in human history, not the telephone, not the television, not electricity, not anything in the history of humanity has ever been adopted at the rate and percentage at which it is being adopted now. And I think that's extremely important to say.
It's a very interesting thing to watch. Aaron, do you have any steam around that question?
Sure, for sure. Yeah, it's funny. I'm glad you ended with that internet thing, because it's kind of like brings me to how I wanted to start the now part of my answer, and that I saw somewhere that like where we are now in crypto and adoption is basically like the internet in the late 90s. Like, even though it's growing really fast, it's still it's kind of still just in a infancy type stage. Especially if you talk about like the real world, like the real use cases. And they're actually starting already. Like, I was hearing Visa, the credit card company, is now using crypto USDC to like do its settlement layer. It's really interesting because they don't have to use the traditional banking system. They have to wait 3 days, right? If you ever doing an ACH transfer, same, basically the same thing. Now they're using USDC, and it's 15 seconds or however long it is. So there's like certainly some real back-end type stuff that are happening. Also, obviously, I'm sure everyone in this crowd knows about like El Salvador, like their experimentation with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of just speaks to a bigger thing about cryptos for remittances, which I think is potentially a huge one. The company I work with actually started a little pilot to use a cryptocurrency for remittances in the Philippines last year when COVID was happening.
Oh, wow.
Partnered with like the World Bank and some other big organizations there. I wasn't really part of it, but it was like interesting to see how that is happening. And like a lot of crypto is speculation, a lot of it is shilling and absolute crap, but there's like some real good stuff happening in there. And it just really inspires me.
I agree.
Well, that's an interesting segue, because I
got one thing to say.
Oh, sure.
Whenever I used to like try to explain to people, because there's like this meme about crypto people, like we want to talk about it all as much as we can all the time, but like no one's really wants to listen. So when I used to try to talk to people about it, I used to make a lot of the points that these guys are making right now, try to educate them from the ground up and talk about borderless money and blah blah blah, and they just their eyes just glaze over and just say okay, whatever.
Oh, it's a lot to take in. It's like some people have just gotten used to the idea of having a credit card, and now you're talking about decentralized money. You're like, whoa, okay, what is that? So
well, now honestly, to get them on board, all I say is like, oh, you can't get overdraft fees. Boom, they're in.
That's a seller right there,
bro.
That's a seller right there.
I'm in.
What? What is it? I'm in. Take me there.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. So that's a good segue to, because I know Aaron, you have a real problem with like the meme coin revolution that's happening.
I do.
And you do as well. So like so like a follow-up question to that is, so how exactly are meme coins harmful? And let me just take you into, because some of these, so there are some coins like Enjin coin, I know is a coin that's being started to fund in-game and in-house items, internet items for the metaverse. Exactly. So the metaverse revolution is taking off. I know, and so Enjin coin, as well as Roblox and their Robux. There are some people touting that as well. And then also there's this one that really caught my attention, Evergrow Coin. So what they're saying is that on the initial release of the coin, they burned through 50% of the inventory, and then the manual burns account for 2%. So it's backed by an NFT marketplace. It has a pay to earn component. It has a content subscription platform and staking pools. So there's different ways, and the best thing about this is because of the burn that they do with this specific coin. I don't think it's on all the platforms yet. They're still dropping on different main stage platforms. But eventually in the future it's going to get more scarce. So even with those kind of meme coins, like how do you see meme coins as harmful?
Who wants to take that?
I mean, even the guy who created the Doge coin made it as a joke. It's a copy and paste code of Bitcoin, and he slapped a meme on top, and it went to an over $2 billion evaluation. And he himself was just like, that's if that can happen in this space, something's wrong. That's not right. And I think basically, like, okay, fine, we could start with fundamentals. For business fundamentals, you find a need and you fill it, and that's kind of how you make your business. For a lot of these meme coins, they're copy paste code of other existing networks. So what's meme coin, or I'm sorry, what's Dogecoin or Shiba coin or Enjin coin doing that like Ethereum and Bitcoin aren't? And the main thing is like, well, people think Ethereum's 4,000 right now and Bitcoin 65,000 right now. They're not going to buy a whole Bitcoin or a whole Ethereum, but hey, maybe I can get in on this new thing and maybe it'll go to 4,000 too, and I'll be rich. And that's it. That's the need they're filling. There's just speculation and hopium, and I think that's dangerous. Even though a lot of people have become successful, it's extremely risky, and they're not fundamentally sound, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of hopium. Aaron or Sebastian, you got any takes on that?
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
Go ahead, Aaron.
A short one is that like, it's sort of like an ironic thing that when you look at like Bitcoin and it's like, oh, let's make a deflationary thing that like has a fixed limit, right? And so there's like that's its premise of Bitcoin, right? And then if you just copy and paste code, then the whole idea of things having a scarcity, like even if an individual Shiba coin has scarcity, if there's 20 copies of it, like little Shiba and whatever it is, then it doesn't actually have any scarcity. And as Elvis is alluding to, you have to have an actual need you're fulfilling, right?
Yeah.
And the need has to fulfill a need outside of its own system, right? Like, and so I mean, even a lot of coins that are actually for a project that is actually useful, even those coins aren't necessarily fulfilling a need yet, right? Like, besides just like for the value that they have. And so I think they could in the future, but yeah, it's like, it's difficult.
Do you remember Centcoin from 2017? Their
Which
whole
one?
campaign was Centcoin, CENT, like century. Centcoin, their whole thing was just like, there's only 100, there's 1 million of you, think about it. That's it. That was the and like the price skyrocketed, and then of course it tanked and a lot of people lost money. But that's it.
That's hilarious.
That's all you need to make money back then.
Yeah, it's a lot of. At this point, the meme coins are basically gambling. Like I see the way people navigate it on like the platforms like eToro or Bitmart, and they're just buying them, hoping that they shoot up one day. And it's all based on the biggest driver that I've seen of the memes is someone tweeting about them that's famous. Like Elon Musk or Mark Cuban or someone says something. Oh,
did Mark Cuban say something about a meme coin?
No, the one that I know he's been on was Doge.
He's huge on Doge.
He's huge on Doge.
Mark Cuban.
God.
So I mean,
he was so anti-crypto in 2017.
I mean, Mark Cuban has a huge Dogecoin bag, and so does Elon. I mean, and I think when it comes to meme coins, obviously it is all speculation, and we talk about there's so many shit. I was laughing at that video you sent, the shit coin, because it's true, right? It's like, oh, your friend told you and you read articles and it's gonna make me rich. All right, great. I'm gonna put in $200. And what people usually say is like, when it comes to crypto, right? The basics are the basics, man. It's a gamble, right? It's like gambling. You have to just go ahead and look at it like that. And like Aaron said, it's in an infancy stage. We have to keep that in mind. The economy as a global society is volatile as fuck. There's a lot of changes. And so it's all a gamble, right? And I mean, the meme coin Doge, Dogecoin, I have, and I'm a big Dogecoin person because I love the fact that it started as a joke and it became a real life thing, right? And it became And
There are no
like
developers.
next to Bitcoin, the largest coin that exists, the most valuable coin that exists, Dogecoin has almost 2,000 business uses for
Right.
so you could purchase goods and services. And on top of that, what makes me a Dogecoin fan is because there's a huge culture drives so much in our world, in our society, in our humanity. A lot of it is driven by culture, basketball culture, shoe culture, rap culture, hip hop, music culture. Everything has culture behind it, and culture makes things useful. Culture makes a belonging, right? Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The bottom line of the bottom bracket is like safety, food to eat, a roof over our heads. But in that pyramid, there's a sense of belonging that the human needs. And Dogecoin has built a culture behind this coin. And the culture is a beautiful thing. I spend a lot of time on Twitter Spaces, and that's one of the things I wanted to get on here and talk about was Twitter Spaces, because there's a lot of information right now. I fell off Twitter a minute ago because of politics, but Dogecoin, in a sense, brought me back on Twitter because I started going into these spaces and hearing people talk about how Dogecoin is a powerful utility for them in their daily lives, right? Like people are paying for goods and services with Dogecoin. The Dogecoin community brings people together. There are people out there that are in real need of cash. And so the Dogecoin community are like, send me your wallet. There's a thing called Tipping Tuesday, and somebody will go on there and talk about their life, and if there's a need for them, people will tip them Dogecoin, and they will and then turn Doge into their fiat, and they'll help them pay for whatever it is that they're looking for. And I think there's something valuable and powerful about that. And I think that's what separates Dogecoin from all the other meme coins. Now, I still think people are like, Dogecoin is just some shit meme coin, and people can have that opinion. But I think there's real life use for Doge. But like, again, because crypto is so in an infant stage for us, I mean, there is no doubt at any point some huge backholder can just ruffle everybody, and then everybody's back, right?
Well, and I think specifically in respect to the meme coins, I think what they do speak to, and when you stretch it out, the crypto revolution in general is the ability for people to come together in online spaces, like you were talking about, that community. Like you go on Twitter and you can find these different threads, which is why I find DAOs very interesting. This article, this Entrepreneur article by Tammy Sons that came out on the 30th about the Constitution DAO that just happened. The auction, like 17,000 users, they came together on different threads and like Twitter and most likely Reddit, and they were communicating around this DAO that they were pouring money into to purchase one of the original 13 copies of the Constitution. And so I find them very interesting. So basically DAOs, for anyone who doesn't know, are decentralized autonomous organizations. And people purchase what are called tokens with cryptocurrency to basically have a voice in whatever initiative that the DAO is pushing for. So in this instance, people purchased tokens to have a say in what was going to be done with this original, authentic copy of the Constitution. For anyone who doesn't know as well, there are 13 copies of the Constitution that were given to the original 13 colonies, and this was an original that was found and put up for auction. So can I speak to DAOs for a second and like the usefulness of that kind of fusion between economics and democracy. Sure, Aaron, if you can take that one.
Sure. Yeah, I actually think DAOs are one of the most interesting things about crypto. And I kind of forgot to mention it, but in what I think is happening next in crypto is definitely like new ways of organization, and DAOs are pretty much what that is. I think it's an interesting thing with DAOs. Like, it's sort of like we haven't quite. It's like we're still trying to figure it out. Like, I think with the Constitution DAO, it's like it was a very prominent example, but it probably isn't even like the best example of one, right? I think there's some other ones that like have figured out like, oh, like you have to have. It's like, let's have like general voting, and then like there's some people that get voted into office basically, and they have like more power. Like not maybe it's not even people. It's like I think it's actually addresses technically. But I think that with DAOs, and then if you get into like different forms of like unique identities, so like one of the issues with DAOs is that they'll use they have to buy a token to participate, because otherwise if you just let any address participate, people could just create 10 addresses and then have more voting power, and
then instantly have like a
so then you have, it's called, I think technically they call it like a Sybil attack. And so one thing that you could do is like find different ways of attesting that this address is owned by a person, and like there's only so much you can do there. And so one thing you could do is like a decentralized way of verifying that there's like a phone number attached to it, or like a decentralized way of like saying like, oh, this address owns an NFT, and you have to own this NFT to participate in this DAO, or different things like that. And that's sort of like the future, where it's like hard computer science like research happening on that it's beyond my head, but it's quite fascinating. So
I find it very interesting. Anyone want to take up that?
Yeah, I mean, the DAO world is very interesting, and as a matter of fact, the DAO community bought the non-fungible token that is the meme that was Doge. So
nice.
I think that's very interesting, and
interesting.
and not only that, but like the same group bought the same group. I have it here, but the sole existing copy of the album "Once Upon a Time in Shaolin" by the Wu-Tang Clan for $4 million.
Wow.
So now I think it's powerful, right? And I mean, I would personally love to pool my resources with a group of people,
like-minded people, finding each other on the internet.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, like Mark Cuban has been ahead of this for a long time, and I listen to, I don't know if anybody knows Gary Vaynerchuk.
Oh, yes, I've heard great things.
And I love Gary Vaynerchuk. I mean, I think he's real world empathy and kindness, and he leads in that essence, which is like relatable to me, because that's the kind of business I want to see, right? An empathetic business, a kind business, and somebody that's putting out that kind of like revolution out into the world, where like I want to help you win.
Yeah, makes
I don't
waves.
just want to take your money. I want to give you utility with what I'm offering as far as my service, right?
Right.
So Mark Cuban, I heard him talking about NFTs. He's one of the first people I heard talking about NFT. I was like, what the heck is an NFT? But the way he explained it was like this, right? So he has his basketball team. And so what he's doing is, so for maybe some specific basketball game, instead of like just selling tickets for the game, like in the way that we're used to, you go to the internet, go to some tickets, purchase a ticket for however much fiat. He is selling an NFT. This NFT is going to get you into 15 games of the season.
Okay.
Once the NFT is used up as far as the entry to the games,
Gotcha.
this NFT is going to still hold utility and value because he can basically turn this NFT holder and create some event. And he could be like, if you had this NFT, you have an entryway to our event because you're an NFT holder. So it's no longer offering an entryway to a basketball game. He's giving more value by using this NFT as legit owned property that has a value further past getting inside of a basketball game.
Interesting. And it's like and is it like the more shares you have in this NFT, the more doors open, or the more, how does that work?
Can I just define NFT? Because I
Yes.
realized I didn't really.
Yeah, go
Sure.
ahead, Eric.
Yeah, so it literally stands for non-fungible
Fungible
token.
Gotcha.
And so most money, one of the properties of money is that it's fungible. $1 is the same as $1. €1 is the same as €1. So most cryptocurrencies are fungible tokens.
Got
So it's a way of differentiating them. But so that means that each one is unique.
Mm.
And so in that instance, like if you have that NFT for the game, now there might be they might mint several ones. Maybe they mint 15 of them, you know,
Right.
to get for 15. But each one is very unique, and you'll be able to know, like, oh, you owned NFT issue serial number 001
Gotcha.
this time. So, yeah, just little.
And those tokens are what's going to be transferred over from event to event. So if you have this token, we're now switching it to this event, and if you bought into that, then you can now enjoy this experience. Interesting. Okay, Mark
Yeah,
Cuban,
I mean,
see you.
Yeah,
You don't have to give the token away.
Yeah, right.
You
Okay.
just scan it. Yeah,
Scan
just,
it.
you show the hash, if the computer proves that it's real, and that's it.
right.
Wow.
I mean, Gary Vaynerchuk just released his project called VFriends, which it's like a deck of interesting characters.
Mhm.
And so how he makes this valuable is a lot of what Gary Vaynerchuk does. He makes a lot of money doing speaking engagements. So he's created this event called VCon for over the next 4 or 5 years.
Mm.
So he released his project, and he released it on the Ethereum blockchain.
Mhm.
And so when it was first released, I mean, I think his cheapest VFriend was like a 0.5 Ethereum, which at that time was like $2,300.
Mm.
And so not only did those VFriends, those NFTs specifically flip to like 3 Ethereum basically overnight, but each level of his VFriends, some of them are super rare, some of them are rare, some of them are like there's like a 1 of 1 that's extremely valuable. There's like a 1 of 5, and then there's like a 1 of 100, a 1 of 200, or whatever, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
And so depending on what level of rarity or VFriend you have, it's gonna, for example, he sold it off as like, if you have this NFT, you can do a 1-on-1 with me, or we could do a Zoom call, or you could pitch your project. Or when it comes to VCon, if you have this NFT, that's an entry to my VCon. So you're investing not only in the value of the art, which is it's an art project for him, but also it's a value in the essence in the long term for events and specific things that he might want to use that NFT for. And that's also what like drives a lot of this value and competitiveness with trying to be a part of these projects and these communities. And
Elvis, did you have something you wanted to, or did you want to complete your thought, Sebastian, or before you good? Okay.
So, for NFTs, I mean, I get the whole, like, if you own the NFT, you can get stuff because you own it. I've seen that example with Quentin Tarantino. They said like if they get every frame of Pulp Fiction, create an NFT for all of them, The ones that are like memes are probably going to go for a lot. And then, you know, Quentin Tarantino can be like, if you own the, you know, the meme where it's the two guys pointing their guns,
Right.
I'll invite you, or you can have dinner with me or whatever. But I feel like that's kind of a secondary, like a layer 2 value of it, because not every NFT is gonna get you invited, you know, into games and stuff. But the way I saw it, and it made a lot of sense to me, and it made a lot of sense that it revolves around art, is that like the fine art world to me is the way I kind of I guess simplify it. The fine art world is like really rich people picking the artwork on their credit card. Like, you know how they have different credit cards and they have different pictures and you can like pick one.
Mhm.
That's kind of what it feels like. Billionaires or millionaires go into like a gallery. They go, where can I put my money where it's non-taxable, where it's you don't
Right.
pay a fee, you don't, you know, and it holds its value.
I've been
And it
hearing a
holds its
lot about
value
that lately.
because,
Yeah.
yeah, it holds its value because art is very unique.
Hmm.
Every brushstroke makes it something different, just like an NFT. Like
Right.
anything different in that digital image will change the hash drastically. So there's no way to it's rare. It's like Aaron was saying, the scarcity is there. So if you buy this painting, I mean, have you seen some of these Picassos? It looks like, you know, a 7-year-old drew them. And they're going for like $7 million. Why?
Hmm.
Because the previous person paid 6 million. So you have to.
Hmm.
So you pay, and the only way to do that is that's why they have a like people who dedicate their entire lives over analyzing a style and being able to tell the difference between a fraudulent painting and a real one. Because if there's two, or if it's imitatable, then now, there could be a fake one that you could sell, you know, and you have
Right.
the double spend problem that we would have in NFTs. Same deal with the NFT. You're putting a lot of money into basically a hash, which is just a alphanumeric code, and if you pay that much for it, there's proof of it on the blockchain. For us, we have for the art world. If you look behind the paintings, all the owners, all the way down to the Renaissance era, are all there,
Oh
and it's
wow.
all provable. There's like a vault in Italy where they have this record, this ledger of everybody, and you have to prove that it's a real one, that it has a real is it lineage or legacy? I think it's legacy
Legacy.
of
That's
all those.
amazing.
Yeah.
I didn't know
Well,
that.
and if the previous person paid a certain amount, you pay more, and you pay more, you pay more, you pay more, you pay more. And the whole deal is it's a way to make your money look pretty and not taxable and not
Mm-hmm.
finable. And then when you're ready to cash it out, you sell it, and then, you know, there could be some capital capital gain, or what's that new tax? Um there's a new like future profit tax that they're talking about right now.
Appreciation, some sort of tax.
Yeah, something like that, like a capital gains tax.
Hmm.
But since it's a painting, you can fly to another country where they don't have that, like Sweden, sell your painting there, not get taxed, and get all your money.
Mm.
So like it kind of, I always went to like when you know, Bernie and Warren and all those people were running, they're like, tax the rich. And I'm
Right.
like, do you know what rich people's money is? It's not like you can rip off part of the painting, you know?
Right.
It's not like
Yeah, they have it well
you can't
protected,
force
their
me to sell
assets.
stock.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for me, that's kind of the layer 1 of NFTs and how they work and why they work. And then
Mm.
layer 2, you can add, of course, more value if they're tied to somebody like Mark Rubin or Quentin Tarantino or Elon Musk or Barack Obama, or really anybody, the Pope.
Mm.
So anyway, that's kind of like my analogy of NFTs and why they work and how they work.
And there are people who are going to have a very hard time understanding that concept when that becomes more mainstream. The Quentin Tarantino example you just gave. There was an article I saw a while ago about someone suing or trying to sue because of one of the scenes he was trying to put an NFT on.
Yeah, because someone gave him the idea of it. I saw a
Yeah,
TikTok of the person actually explaining it to him. He's like, really?
yeah.
And then he tried to do it, and they're like, wait, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where they're at right now.
All right. Anyone have any more steam around that? Oh, Aaron, you want to go?
Yeah, it's funny. I like personally haven't really gotten to NFTs at all, but
Mhm.
one thing that I do is interesting to me, and I think is potential very good, is that you could potentially have an NFT where each time it's sold, not only does the previous buyer get money, but there's a percentage of the sale goes to the original artist.
Mm.
And I think that's pretty interesting for people who are into that.
Yeah.
I love
And
that. That's a great idea. Yeah, of course.
yeah, I mean that's true. And not only that, but a lot of these NFT projects are also, so I own some NFTs already.
Mhm.
And for example, there's a Hello Breasties NFT project out there, and it's all woman based, women created, all women artists, developers, all women team.
Oh wow.
And it's and there are these little art projects that are like breasts, right? Breasts of all kinds, and they're little characters. They're just like boobs with eyes and no nose and little
Interesting.
characteristics.
Huh.
And a lot of, for example, there's like a 7.5% of the value of the NFT goes to activism. It goes to charities, and so
Interesting. I'm sure breast cancer awareness. That's
yeah,
I mean, it's pretty on the nose, but
and I think that's really interesting that they're doing that too,
Yeah.
right? There's a lot of activists on this NFT platform, and they're using their NFT projects to bring light to their activists' real life. And I think there's value in all of that, right? Like, so we're activists, Kevin and I, and I have a specific interest in like solving homelessness, and so I'm going to go out there and try to support anybody that's trying to create a project that will help people looking for housing and whatnot. So that, from an artist perspective, as far as this crypto world, things like that will bring value to me as a buyer, as a collector, and I will gladly put my fiat into that, as opposed to like going to some nonprofit organization that will maybe put another little percentage, but like it's just a similar kind of concept, and that's why I feel like there's value in that.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Good. So the very last question I want to touch on is relating to the article. I'm not sure if it was an article, but
The
it
last
was.
question. I feel like we're just getting started.
Oh.
I know, right? We didn't even all talk about DAOs. It's like so much to talk about.
Well, there's I know that some of you have brought your own inquiries around the crypto space, but the question I want to touch on, I should say my last question, was around something that was introduced in the Kevin Awoki article that you posted, Aaron, around Gitcoin. This concept of quadratic lands. Can you explain a little bit more of what that is? What are quadratic lands?
Yeah. So quadratic funding.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, gosh, I should have read the article again that I posted. But basically, quadratic funding is an idea that if you don't, that projects use, basically they have, Gitcoin is a platform for funding projects, basically.
Okay.
And you can choose to donate to different projects.
Right.
But they also have, in addition to that, there's like a Gitcoin treasury that kind of matches funds. Mm-hmm. Rather than matching in like a 1-to-1 ratio, what it does is that if it kind of has it biases the funding matching towards projects that get more the number of people who donate to a project rather than the amount that someone donates. Okay. So the quadratic part comes from the formula they use, where and I should have looked this up, but it's probably something like the quadratic. I don't know exactly, but I think it's something like they take like the quadratic root of like what you donated and then subtract that from the total and then invert it to figure out. So basically that projects that have more donations get more funds.
Yeah, I saw the distribution was like it was like 50 and then 15 and 35. I know 50, the 50 value was the people who had tokens already in that specific the Git DAO, the Gitcoin DAO. And then the 15 were people who previously had those tokens or who were invested in Gitcoin who have left, and then the 35 were incoming people into the DAO. So there's like a different differentiation of the distribution, but the quadratic lands were, well, the quadratic funding was what they wanted to use to create what they were calling quadratic lands, and that's basically just having more of a democratic space around like digital communities coming together and you know,
From
in more of these different kind of projects.
from what I understand, what it basically is, you know, people that work on open source
Mhm.
projects.
Mhm.
There's no corporations, no LLC. There's no way for them to make money. And then when they release their awesome tech, it's free, and anybody can change it if they want.
Right.
So I think, from what I understood from that article, I mean, not so much of how it works, but more so that there's a pool of money where profitable communities, you know, put money, and then they all vote on which project that's going to go to, and that's basically it.
Mm.
And I thought it was a great idea, to be honest, and I love
Yeah.
that it worked in the voting system. Everybody votes like,
Yeah.
hey, you know, they're doing great work over here at Ethereum. They're not getting paid.
Right.
Let's fucking reward them.
Yeah, the DAO system seems very organized to me. I think what they would, because I'm seeing a lot of the DAO communities are operating on different communication apps. Like if they're the first person to utilize or to come up with that is probably gonna set themselves up for a lot of success. If there was like a platform like a Reddit or something for specific DAO communities to come together on, so that it's not so scattered. Because the Constitution DAO was created 5 days before the actual auction began. So imagine if there was like a notice, a notification, maybe a month in advance. We are going ahead with this project. We are trying to buy this original copy of the Constitution, and people were notified of this DAO, and it wasn't like a scattered sort of initiative to, yes, the potential is endless in that regard if you can do that.
I think it could be very disruptive in any large corporations where there's middle management.
Right.
You could basically get rid of all of that, and then you just vote on how the company's going to work, and that's it. You don't even really need like a top board, really.
No.
You just kind of need people who own shares in the company to decide which way the company's going to steer. I don't know.
That's interesting. Are you guys familiar with Dan Price?
No.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
paid his employees like 70 million or something.
Oh, that guy. Yeah.
I want to work for Dan Price if he's
All right, 75K.
Well,
Hey, but he said his company was way more profitable since he started doing that.
Right. Yeah.
All his employees
yeah.
were really
interesting.
happy.
Yeah.
and this reminds me of what you guys are talking about when it comes to this Gitcoin, is because every company has like a budget allotted to giving a charity, and then they make these contributions. So what Dan Price does in his company as a CEO, what he does is he gives each individual employee a certain allocation of this budget. He gives them a percentage, each and every single one. And he allows his employees to use this specific allotment to invest or to give the charity of their own specific choice. Because in his opinion, he feels like, yeah, his company could just make these massive contributions to like one or two different charities, but how much more powerful will it be if he gave the power to his employees
to do with it well,
to use his company's profit money,
right, to
invest and to give to these charities of their own specific choice. And I think there's so much more value in that and that's why I like Dan. I mean, there are things about Dan that I have questions about, but I really enjoy that he does this, and it's a very similar kind of ecosystem that you can really find with DAOs and Gitcoin. And I briefly read through that article, but it's really interesting. It reminds me of that kind of philosophy, which I think is great.
Right. So my questions are done. What's on your mind? Anyone want to jump out with anything that they've been like really zeroing in on lately, or?
I'm very excited for staking. It's something that I've been waiting for since 2017. So like originally, the biggest problems with all of blockchain is scalability, to reach economies of scale. The thing with the blockchain is that all the computers have to agree to go to the next step at the same time, and that can get very slow. And they all have a copy of that thing, of that next step. So eventually, you know, in a small community, yeah, it's doable. But once you start to like really get to like Visa credit card levels, it's just not feasible yet. So this is where all these layer 2 solutions and stuff come in. But like another thing is that, you know, they do proof of work, which is, you know, in my opinion, the most secure, but also the most cost effective in terms of the environment, because it takes a ton of energy to run this many computers who are just like going as fast as they can. So back then, I think Vitalik, do you guys know Vitalik? You guys know Vitalik, right? Yeah, Vitalik was talking about how they're going to transition in Ethereum 2.0 to proof of stake, and that instead of mining the coins, you would put some of your coins and lock it up in a smart contract, and then an algorithm would choose, like, you know, an address at random to verify or not verify the transactions of the blockchain. And then if you're the one that gets kind of luckily chosen, you get the Ethereum coin or whatever you're mining. And then you know, just keeps doing that over and over and over, and it uses about the same power as like a laptop. Oh no, that's a different blockchain. But like it's substantially less, like 0.001% of now. And I was excited for that because I feel like if you stake your Ethereum, let's say, or, you know, there's a lot of other coins you could stake now, but let's say Ethereum, the more people use the network, the more money you get, and actually that kind of becomes a source of passive income. So every year, you know, you get however much that you get from your stake. You can you can stake more to, you know, increase your odds of getting more, or pay for, you know, whatever around the house. And the thing is, like right now, owning like 1 or 2 Ethereum is like very expensive, but I think in 10 years, owning like 0.001 of 1 Ethereum is going to be like very rare. So having like 2 will really up your chances. I think I remember them saying that like 10 ETHs was going to be like what all you need to stake. I don't know if that stayed true or if that ever panned out. I know things change over time, but yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I know I heard it was 32, but you can stake portion. You can join like I stake an ETH or something. You can stake even if you don't have the full amount, because you can like put it in a pool basically. So you can still participate even if you don't have the official minimum.
Well, back when he said 10 ETHs were like $100. So
Yeah.
32 ETHs
Yeah.
today, holy smokes.
Oh my God.
What exactly is an ETH for people who don't know?
Gas. That's
Yeah.
almost going to take over.
An ETH or Ether is the base utility token on the Ethereum network, and it is what you use on Ethereum. It's permissionless. Anyone can put anything there, but there is a real resource that is used, computing power. And so in order to make sure that people don't spam it, you have to pay transaction fees with gas, and gas is paid for in Ether.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the fundamentals.
Digital oil of the future.
And gas prices are incredibly high right now, which is the biggest complaint that is out there on ETH, on Ethereum. I mean, I personally stake a 70% of my Ethereum that I had from ETH1, and it's been staking for some months now. I've made passive income off of that. I have a percentage of ETH that I make on a consistent basis, which I think is what makes it powerful. I have in my portfolio, which is extremely vast, it's very diverse. I have specific coins that I chose to invest in just because they're proof of stake coins. Atom, Cosmos, I have Algorand.
Oh, good.
And you know, and I have different I have 3 different wallets. And so what my whole strategy with those specific coins, because Bitcoin and Ethereum are so expensive, you know, I figured okay, I'm gonna invest in these little coins. I have Bitcoin. I have like your top 5 coins that you can have, and I have a couple coins that I invested in there, like top 20. And but I'm interested in the proof of stake because proof of stake allows me to basically go ahead and buy a percentage of a coin, you know, or buy however many, input however many fiat, and I get this many coin in return, and I'll stake this at like a 7% APY, right? And so there's a stake time frame, 21 days, that every 21 days, while my coin is staked, after every 21 days, I'll get that 7 percentile back. And so what happens after like a few months, I'll collect all my rewards that I keep separate from the actual amount that I own.
Okay.
And then I'll do the accounting on that, and basically whatever I made of that coin in fiat, what I'll do is I'll transfer that into my Bitcoin, which is, for me, Bitcoin is like my 401k, my retirement, my long-term planned hold. And so that's that. I mean, I think that's what proof of stake is powerful to me personally in my own investments. So
No, so are you planning on transferring your Doge over to your Bitcoin eventually, like in the long run?
that's a good question. I hold Shiba, and I hold Shiba solely for the purpose of any gains that I make off of that. I know that's volatile and it's not solidified, but if I do have gains from that, and I have made gains from Shiba, I transferred all of that to Doge. And because Doge has such a utility, I personally think that in the near future, Doge is going to be like what our fiat currency is, right? Like, I'm going to go buy a plane ticket with Doge. I'm going to go buy an entry to an event with Doge. I'm going to go ahead and transfer Doge to family members or friends to, you know, barter with them to pay for their services. So that's kind of how
That's the
see
big
it.
debate, though. Everyone's like, you know, who's going to be that third slot? It's either Shiba or Doge. So one of them is gonna, you
Totally.
know.
I mean, it's all up for grabs, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
all up for grabs. I just feel like functionality right now, and in a real life use case, Dogecoin has a great argument because you really use it, right? People are literally using it, and one Doge equals one Doge, right? Like, it's not like the other coins that, you know, are broken down like Bitcoin. There's a set amount, and it's broken down by a percentage, right? You can break down one Bitcoin to 0.00001, and it'll still have some value. I mean, for sure. And with, you know, and it's all based on market cap and circulation, supply, and everything like that, right? Like, for example, people who think, I'm not in that group of people that think Shiba is going to reach $1. I think there's an impossibility with that. I think if it reaches like 0.0001, like, I'm a winner, right? Like, I made a great investment. I'm out. And I'm not like holding all of my bag on Shiba anyway. But there are ways that you can definitely gain value in your strategy for your portfolio, and how you're managing in that, for you to create more gains for yourself and make your portfolio a little bit stronger. I don't think, like, anybody who shits on anything, I think there's maybe there's like a lack of understanding, but I'm also not marrying myself to any of these coins that are
Right.
not like Bitcoin, because I feel like Bitcoin is the mother. Bitcoin is the
Yeah.
granddaughter, right? And I feel like, for me, Bitcoin is what's going to be our future.
Yeah, I mean, like, case in point, or not Venezuela, El Salvador. You know, it's a very gutsy move for them to
It is
adopt it
gutsy.
as their currency. You know.
Real
Yeah.
gutsy. And not only
Very
that, but
gutsy.
they're literally talking about building a Bitcoin city, right? Like, and the idea of that is so mind-blowing, man. Like just city that is just powered by Bitcoin, and there's no taxes, and you're not paying for infrastructure. It just all pays for itself. And that it's still a very like young concept for people to understand. We're so married to the current systems that we have been living under, right? And have been taught to us by our parents in whatever country we're in. But, you know, that's all really changing on a day-to-day basis. And El Salvador just completely there's over 150 countries that have adopted cryptocurrency. And America isn't even on the top of that list. They're like sixth or
Right.
whatever in the list.
Yeah.
So it's powerful, man. It's powerful.
It is, but keep in mind, I mean, we've had a really nice bull run this year, but the Santa rally is probably going to start soon. And I don't know if you guys remember the cycles of how this goes. After the Santa rally, it tanks, and it tanks hard. And I've seen there's stories of people killing themselves, and there's stories of people going to horrible depression, and people that just didn't understand how this, you know, tends to work. Yeah, over time it goes up, but they can't, making a whole country, you know, be Bitcoin legitimate during a bull run might give the wrong idea to people who don't really understand it, especially in somewhere like El Salvador, where people are like, wait, this is worth how much? And tomorrow it's worth how much? This is great. And in January, I think they're going to have a different attitude. So although I'm all for it, I hope they do another Silicon Valley there. In fact, I think somebody from America tried to do it in Puerto Rico, and they shunned them away because they didn't trust big financial institutions. And I thought that was kind of
Oh wow.
not the smartest.
Someone
Huh?
attempted it. Someone attempted the same move in Puerto Rico.
Yeah. What's that? EOS. Do you guys remember EOS?
Oh wow.
It's like Billy. John Oliver even covered them. He tried to. First of all, it was supposed to be like back in 2017. Everything was the Ethereum killer. EOS was another Ethereum killer, and it was this thing like the project wasn't even out yet, and it was worth over $2 billion. And like the guy who was like one of the on the board, one of the CEOs, one of the top guys, it's just this weird rock and roll, like I kind of get tech, I kind of don't, you know, kind of guys. And he really made, the more he kind of went out and exposed the kind of person that he is, the less credibility the project had. And he was the one that went over to Puerto Rico and tried to, you know, he made millions off of the IPO of EOS. He went over there, he wanted to try to start another Silicon Valley to give them profit and stuff, but big corporate banks are a big reason that they blame for their wage disparity. So they didn't really trust him. They kind of shoot him out of the country, and we're just kind of straight up like, we don't trust white people, like straight up. And I see that the president of El Salvador, he's a younger guy, and he's doing that over there, and I think it's gutsy. However, does anybody remember what happened in Venezuela? Like with Maduro when he was still alive?
Yeah, their currency is basically trash right now.
Yeah, they're real Bolivar, right? By the way, I'm
Mhm.
also Venezuelan, so watching that was like heartbreaking for me. But basically, once they kind of learned the whole power of borderless money, because one of the main things that the US did to kind of quell Maduro and his like tyranny or whatever was to put economic sanctions on their economy and kind of say that like nobody's allowed to trade with them, nobody's allowed to, you know, do money things with them. They have to deal with their own shit. And that kind of made the hyperinflation even worse. So what Maduro did, what the people started doing is adopting. First of all, they made crypto illegal because they realized it's a way to hedge against the Bolivar, and so people started using something that used to exist a lot, and now it's a little less common, but they were called privacy coins. And privacy coins were basically coins where you can't tell, even though it's all on a ledger on the blockchain, it's still very, very hard to see where the money came from or where it went or how much it was. And the way they did it is they would get like everybody who's making a transaction at that point and ring all their amounts together and then make a hash. So you don't know who was what. It kind of becomes like, you know, soup. You can make soup, you can't unmake soup. That's like the whole philosophy. So people started using those
Interesting.
coins, and then again, when a government, I see this back and forth, like China did it, India did it, the US, Russia did it, Turkey did it. They like banned Bitcoin or they banned crypto, and then they realized like, wait, we can't control it because it goes way outside of our borders, way outside of our sphere of influence. Holy shit, what do we do? Oh, okay, let's unban it, but like put like these rules and these, and eventually they realize they can't really do anything. people will want to mine, people will want to exchange with Bitcoin. There's not a lot you can do to change it. So Maduro made his own Bitcoin, his own cryptocurrency called I think it was called the Maduro, and it was backed by oil. So that's really sketchy. Oh, so Venezuela's the third
Is that coin still in existence, the Maduro?
No, because the same reason why the hyperinflation, the same reason Venezuela's through the gutter, corruption, is the same reason that crypto didn't work. It was supposed to be backed with oil, and when it was backed with oil, Canada was like, hello, we'd like to buy some of that. And then other countries like, oh yeah, wait, the US can't stop us from interacting with them like this. And they started talking about trade and stuff. And then they realized the oil that it was backed by, like one Maduro's 1 barrel of oil, didn't exist. So he's basically making paper money and trading it for real things. Of course, that's going to be like, what? People pull their money out, and it went to zero, or I think it went to zero. But that kind of thing is what makes me a little weary of entire economies adopting something that they're not familiar with, especially the volatility. Like fiat currencies around the world are what they are, and they don't really change much over the year, right? But this one can go down 30% one day and go up 70% the next day. I've seen that happen. And I think if El Salvador isn't ready for that kind of stuff, we could see a lot of success. We can see the Bitcoin city. We can see like the future, and that we'll try to emulate. We can also see some really bad, financial ruin type of deals.
Right. Well, they really are the test case. Everyone's watching. Everyone's watching to see what happens with them. I know every once in a while I peer over to their articles to see what's going on with them, and they seem to be doing. I mean, Bitcoin's doing really well right now. So I mean, if that's a measure of if Bitcoin is a measure of their economy right now, then they're not doing too bad. He's pulling them out of dire straits. He's a very revolutionary guy. This guy, he doesn't do things by the book. I've heard on a side note, he's like pretty much shoot out most of the gangs from El Salvador. So it's an interesting thing to watch. Does anyone else have anything? Oh,
it could only go up from there. I mean, El Salvador was in a bad place, especially because of their gangs, right? Like their gangs are really running people out of their country by the thousands and the hundreds of thousands. So I actually really enjoy watching this young guy just kind of like disrupt the norm. And there's a whole other added layer to what he's doing with Bitcoin and turning that into the economy, and it's really interesting. I mean, but like how Elvis was saying, I mean, people have to be really careful. And there's bull runs, and then there's bearish markets, and it's just like this. The advice is the same everywhere you go. It's all about like invest what you're really willing to lose, and be strategic. I mean, and know what you're doing, right? Like research. Like when it comes to the crypto world, everybody's always like, dude, do your own research. Nobody is a financial advisor. We're all just kind of doing what we can, learning what we can. So I think it's important for people to really spend time to understand what crypto is in general, and what influence every coin has, not only for the blockchain, but for the universe that is crypto. What utility does it have for our lives, right? Like, is it making our transactions easier as far as like how we do business globally, right? Like from this country specifically. And that's kind of how I go into it. Thinking about like, when I started researching, how am I going to invest in crypto? I don't even know what crypto is. And somebody asked me 2 questions. Ask yourself 2 questions. What are you passionate about in your life? What means a lot to you in your life as far as business is concerned? And what kind of business do you want to see 30 years from now? And invest in that. Find that. Find your way through that information. And
that's
that
good
has
advice.
been very useful for me.
That's very good advice.
Strong fundamentals.
Yeah. Anyone else have anything burning they want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of related, but the thing that I'm kind of interested in talking, one thing that is no one's doing, but I think would be cool is and interesting. I could see maybe this is something that El Salvador does one day, or some other government is. The benefit of a lot of blockchains is that it's all, every transaction is viewable, right? And I think it'd be really interesting if you had some sort of government entity that was like, we're gonna use a blockchain, and maybe they'll use a stable coin, right? So they're not having fluctuations, but they have every transaction they do, every payment to a contractor, every sub-department payment is all done on a blockchain. That could be an interesting thing that happens one day. I don't know. Could happen. Probably won't. But that's sort of like
that would be cool.
the idea
Yeah,
of like
it'll happen.
the idea of like that sort of transparency, because I think is really interesting.
Yeah, I think it's totally viable what you're saying, and that I think that's one of the most exciting turn-ons for me when it comes to cryptos. When I figured out what the blockchain was, right, and how the blockchain works, and for example, we don't know. I don't think there's anywhere you could go at your major bank, wherever you're holding your fiat, where you can literally see what they're doing with your money while you hold it there. And what I think is beautiful about the blockchain is that everything is transparent. You can't hide anything off the blockchain. Any transaction, any move, any wallet, you can see who's holding what on the blockchain. I think there's something so exciting about that, where, you know, it's a real world transparency that we're seeing. And I think there's something so extremely extravagant and valuable about that. And so I don't think we're far off from any of the ideas that you guys are shooting off here, you know?
That's an interesting concept. I forgot that was a thing. Yeah. So yeah, the blockchain records everything, so you're always seeing what's happening on the. That's very revolutionary, because that would cut out a lot of what people consider corrupt.
Exactly.
In
Yeah.
regular
So
markets.
I mean,
yeah.
if you look at I've started to read the white paper of Bitcoin and why it was created, right? And the foundational reason for why this was created was because the financial system of the Fed and all the wealthy elites who own our financial system, who created it and who run it, there's so much corruption. I mean, you saw the Ponzi scheme, right? Like with Bernie, what's his name? Bernie Madoff. Yeah. So
yeah, Bernie Madoff.
There's an impossibility of a Bernie Madoff in the crypto world. And this is one of the reasons why this person, who is a mystery person, created this cryptocurrency system, this blockchain, because they wanted every single person to have a transparency for their financial lifestyle. And I think there's something powerful about that. And that's why I think, for me, that'll be the number one reason. I feel like cryptocurrency is our financial freedom. It's for the people, right? And it will give us a clarity to how we're going to run ourselves in our financial transactions, in the way we live, in the way we do business. And there's just the transparency alone. That is such a powerful, specific trait to this currency. And that's why I personally am like all about it.
Imagine if anybody in the government was forced to use the blockchain, and we could see exactly where they get money. We could see exactly where it's going. We could see exactly who's influencing who or what. That would away cut out so much corruption.
Let's go, baby. Because for me, a lot of my political activism and a lot of my support for like a Bernie Sanders was Citizens United. So when Citizens United
that's where it started.
I was like, there is no way for us to hold anybody accountable anymore as to how we're funding political campaigns that are going to essentially ruin or make people's lives. And I think that, for me, a foundational point is that when it comes to, from the fiat world to the cryptocurrency world, I'm all about transparency. I want to see where I want government officials to use the cryptocurrency blockchain because I want to see how they're treating the hard-earned money that people give
Exactly.
politicians, and I want to see how they're using it to benefit us and not themselves.
All right.
And their holders.
You remember when Cardi B was like, they taxed me 30%. Where's that money going? Show me the
Right.
receipts. Where are the receipts? Blockchain makes that world possible.
Right.
It's like, oh, okay. Military complex. That's where it's going.
Yeah, most of it goes to the military industrial complex. Yeah, Aaron, you got something?
Yeah, I mean, speaking of like helping blockchain and helping people, there are two projects that I do want to just mention because I think they're really amazing. One of them is called Impact Market, and it's about UBI basically, except not universal, but instead of universal, they call it there's nothing you have to do to get it. And basically it's it's a Portuguese-based company, and they create little communities. It's really popular in Brazil apparently, and then apparently some in Afghanistan, and they basically allow you to donate. It's like, if you ever seen Give Direct, that charity that allows you to give directly to people. Except for with Give Direct, it's not really direct because there's still middlemen. Instead, this app that I've used it, Impact Market, allows you to literally give directly to a small community somewhere that's needs some money, and I think it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And they're actually like looking at like forming an impact market DAO, and like basically have it being that like all these communities get these DAO tokens, and as well as the people who gave, and it kind of like has all these thousands of people kind of like have this, in a way, a government outside of national boundaries.
Right.
And that's just really cool to me.
Dude, Red Cross was in a huge scandal a couple years back because they figured out that since they're a nonprofit, they didn't have to like report their taxes, but they found out that like 90% of the donations weren't going out to the people they were trying to help.
Yeah.
So like this would help exactly something like that. Like we see where the money goes and we see where it's getting to the people that it's supposed to, instead of, from what I understand, it went to like bonuses to like the CEO and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure.
And they get to pat themselves on the back from like, oh, we're helping people. We're great. We deserve this.
Yeah. So Aaron, thank you for starting that. So as we close now, do you guys have anything you want to toss out there? Like any projects you want people to take a look at? Like on Aaron, you just listed one. Elvis, Sebastian, you got anything?
Yeah, if we're shilling, I mean, obviously I spoke a little bit about Dogecoin, but you know, when you talk about utility and you talk about it, there's a project called Cosmos, Atom, and they call themselves the Internet of Blockchains. And I think it's just a really good project. I think there's a solid utility to it. And since it is proof of stake, I mean, if you purchase some of that coin, you can stake it, earn your passive income. And I think it's powerful, man. And I think it's a good coin to start with. It's a good first step to researching, you know, it'll send you down rabbit holes to give you a good idea of what the blockchain is, how it's powered, and how you owning, like Ethereum is the internet, right? It's the internet space. If you own Ethereum, you own some of the internet. It's an interesting concept. So I own some of the internet, but Atom is a project where it's the internet of blockchains, right? It's the internet and blockchains, and the fact that it's proof of stake, it's powerful, and it's a solid altcoin, and that's the one I'll show for the day, you know. But essentially, I think everybody should definitely do your own research when it comes to anything that you're investing in, and be very careful with scamming out there. I think it's something that I really wanted to bring to the table is there's a lot of scams out there that are happening. It's very easy for you to you know, if you're not checking your wallet address when you're doing transactions, one little off decimal or one little word, one little letter or number in your address could really, that's it. It could destroy you. I mean, I've seen people lose thousands of dollars in just like in coin in just one bad transaction. And I think that'll be like my input, and just be careful, man. But you know, this is here to stay. It's powerful. Like I said, the adoption rate is the number one piece of information that I wanted to bring to the table here to this conversation, because everything is powered by how many people are being a part of it, are including themselves as a part. That's what makes
The
it powerful.
interest,
That's
the
what makes it.
demand.
That's
The
right.
demand, yeah.
And while it's volatile and we're in an infancy stage, I think when you understand how many players are in this game now, and the transparency aspect of the blockchain, I think these are the powerful pieces of information that have definitely made crypto an extremely lucrative investment. And just be smart. Yeah.
Elvis?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to shell because it just, for me, I don't know. Whenever I talk about any coin, really, especially on Twitter, oh my God, the hate I get.
Right.
So I'm like, if you're doing something different than Bitcoin and Ethereum, then I'm probably gonna like take a look at it. But if you're working on Ethereum, I just think like, well, you know, it's still Ethereum. However, both of those struggle for the same thing that all crypto struggle from. It's just like the transaction speed and, you know, achieving scale. So anything that's working on layer 2 or Lightning Network or Plasma or anything that's making transactions actually that actually shows a path to like a worldwide economy. That's what I'm looking at. Anything that would work on phones then and secure and safe and it'll work, anything like that, that's what I'm looking at. Perfect.
Aaron, you got one more to toss to the mix?
Yeah, I the other one, and this is it's not doing that, and it's not even, these aren't even things that I'm like, I just think they're interesting, basically. And it's called resource.finance.
Right,
and
I saw a
it's
little bit of that.
a mutual credit system is what they refer to. And so basically it's like they take two businesses, let's say, and they're like, if you ever done accounting, you'll know that each account, you know, you have your debits and credits and they have to add up, right? And so instead of like a loan, doing loans where you have to have like some collateral and some other thing, this basically says like, okay, let's look at that concept, and let's say that, okay, you're gonna pledge something from your business, and you're gonna get X amount of this resource dollars, and then you can use those to open and swap the credit lines with another business in the resource network. And then both of you have, you owe the network some amount of whatever your business is, does, like maybe it's filling water bottles or selling food, or you owe that to the network, and you also return from the network, you get tokens you can spend at other businesses that are using this. And it's interesting because technically nothing's actually happened. It averages out to zero, right? It comes down to zero. But what you're doing is basically allowing that, kind of giving liquidity to that assets that you have so that people can transact with each other. And it's something that I just kind of refound about recently, but I think it's interesting. I think it's one that's not just like another copy of something. It doesn't seem very derivative to me. And it seems like the people who do it aren't trying to just, you know, make a buck or something, or they're trying to fill this need. So
right. It seems very much
that's what I think is
still within that spirit of the DAO, where it's like it's people coming together to use mutual resources to thrive together, rather than someone you know, gaining the upper hand, or, you know, it's that's as an evolutionary piece, I feel like that's where we're moving, and we're gonna have to move there in order to survive. Yeah. But
I'm
thank
curious
you.
what
Oh,
Elvis thinks of Solana. I don't think anything. I've never used it, but
Solana.
I don't know. That's supposed to be another Ethereum killer, right?
yeah.
Is that
Oh,
how
it
they're
was
selling
supposed to
it?
it was
Like
supposed to
smart
replace
contract?
Well,
Ethereum.
it's another layer one.
Okay.
Another layer one, yeah. Um,
That's like
you know what? I'm not gonna say anything negative about it because actually I've heard some good things, but I haven't actually had a chance to really look into it. But yeah, I've heard good things.
All right.
You know what we didn't talk about is forks, Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum Classic,
we
all
missed
that
so many
stuff.
good things.
Oh yeah,
Hey,
we're this is a loaded one. We're definitely gonna have another conversation
Yeah.
about this
yeah,
specifically.
Sure.
The one that I really wanted to get into today though was the DAO.
Okay.
Because that was a very interesting thing that I came across. I actually found out about it from another podcast, the realignment with Sagar and Jeet and Marshall Kozlov. So that was really good. They came on like a few days before the auction and started talking about it. So I was like, wow,
can you
that was
share that?
intriguing. Sure,
Can you
yeah,
share that?
yeah, I'll definitely share it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's a valuable resource for people to have, just to know that information. And I think I want to thank you, gentlemen, because this will be very valuable for people who had no idea what the crypto space even was. So people can take a look at this, see this, and absorb this, and make decisions around it that are very informed and very conscious. So I definitely want to thank you again for coming on, and this has been a wonderful conversation.
Yeah. Thanks,
man,
Thank you
guys.
so much.
this was
Yeah.
great. So we appreciate it, Kevin, bringing us
No.
into the space and having this conversation. And I mean, I think my piece of advice, I think Elvis touched on it a little bit. I know there's so much reading and information intake that has to be included
Yeah.
in learning about something, right? But what I
Hmm.
have found useful, and I don't know if Elvis will agree, but like I spend a lot of time on Twitter now. And
Hmm.
it's not like I spend time arguing and fighting and posting about dumb
Right.
stuff. Honestly, there's Twitter spaces. How do you explain Twitter space, man? Like there's so many people, so many different kinds of people are on Twitter. And what I have found useful is there are these spaces, right? And where you could have to 3 people, 2 people to 120 people from all walks of life, all over the world. I have found myself in spaces with celebrities, actors, tech people, authors, speaking in real time on NFTs and crypto. And there's specific sub conversations going on that are extremely important, extremely informational,
Hmm.
and very educational. And I think it saves you a lot of time from having to really just like source the internet and go down that rabbit hole. It has absolutely exponentially increased my information intake without me having to like go down articles and making sure these articles are from legit
Yeah.
journalists and people that are credible.
Right.
So I think that's my one piece of solid information. If you're really looking to find more information, man, get yourself into Twitter spaces, go find some good communities and just listen.
Right. Thank you guys once again. This has been the Purple Fox podcast, and we'll see you later.